Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com. We're glad that you all could be with us. Also, joining us, our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. We're excited to welcome New York Times bestselling author Terri Libenson to our program today. Terri is celebrating her newest book called Remarkably Ruby. And if you think your life can be a little bit awkward and sometimes exciting, I think you're going to really love this book regardless of what your age might be. It's perfect for middle schoolers, though. I'm going to talk to Terri not only about the new book, but also what it's been like for her to share these characters with the world. Terri, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, Terri, I have to say, after reading Remarkably Ruby, I don't feel quite as bad about my life even as an adult. Because I think Ruby and her friends definitely are just about as awkward, if not more so, than I find myself. So I do want to ask you, though, what has it been like for you to see the way that readers are already gravitating to the book?
Oh, it's been wonderful. I get some really lovely reader email, and oftentimes they'll say how somehow my books have helped them through different situations. I mean, that's the highest compliment I think I could receive. So it is all good.
Yeah. And Terri, I think one of the great things about your writing and your characters even is that you do draw us in. As I mentioned, the relatability factor is definitely one. The books are entertaining, but I think, you almost leave your books thinking, well, you know what, maybe my life isn't as bad as I thought it was, because I think a lot of times, you're right, we think that our lives are just the worst. Is that kind of your hope too, that you're able, especially with young readers, to get them to see their life in a different perspective?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I try and create characters that are relatable, and I really, my ultimate goal is to have readers feel like they're not alone. I know I felt very alone in middle school and many other years too. And books like these, not just mine, but there's so many wonderful middle grade books out there now. I would have welcomed them really because I definitely felt like I wasn't alone, that I was alone and didn't really have a voice and had a lot of trouble expressing myself. So that was my big goal. So sure.
And I will say, too, if you guys have not read any other books by Terri, the great thing about your books is even though there may be characters that are familiar to us, each book kind of stands alone. How important is that for you, that if people are just now discovering your work, that they can pick up a book and be able to, get a full story without feeling like they have to read other books to kind of understand everything?
Yeah. Honestly, when I created the first book, Invisible Emmy, I wasn't even trying to think of a series or anything like that. I was just hoping the book would sell. And I thought that I would keep going with Emmy, but it turned out I just wanted to kind of rotate the characters and keep it more interesting for both myself and the reader. So it turned out that, the books can either be read in the order that I wrote them, or they could be read standalone. And I do like that. I like the fact that, if they feel like maybe a character is more relatable to them when they're reading the back cover or something, they could just pick up that book and know that they don't really need to have read any of the other ones. So for sure.
Yeah. I think that is one of the cool things. So let's talk about Remarkably Ruby a little bit. It has one of my favorite things, Terri, as someone who's a spoken word artist myself. I love the fact that poetry is a very big part of this book. I do feel as though with Ruby and the other characters, as they're kind of dealing with their own angst and events, I love the fact that being able to share their gifts is kind of a part of this. How did you kind of decide on the setting of this book?
Sure. It's kind of a funny little story. Not really a story, just I got the spark of an idea because my last book, Truly Tyler, which is the fifth one that came out this last year, toward the end, I just kind of threw Ruby in there. She wasn't known as Ruby. She was known as the nickname Baked Bean Girl. She was just this comic relief kind of background character in all my other books that was always running to the bathroom in the background after a big meal, which, by the way, is explained a little bit more in Remarkably Ruby. But anyway, I threw her into the end of Truly Tyler without giving anything away, where she just won a poetry contest. And it was just like a little snippet of a larger story. And so I had a lot of reader emails and letters asking if I could make Baked Bean Girl a real character, like a real main character. And I thought she deserved her own story as well. So I kind of took that little spark of an idea where she just won a poetry contest, and I expanded on that for Remarkably Ruby. So where Ruby is extremely socially awkward, and I wouldn't call her shy. I'd just say that she always kind of manages to say the wrong thing all the time. Right. But she has a knack for writing, and that's the way she really knows how to express herself, and especially through poetry. So I did a deep dive into poetry for this book. I researched a lot. I read a lot of poetry. I watched poetry slams on YouTube. I tried to immerse myself in it. Yeah. And then, and I really enjoyed writing little bits and pieces of poetry for this book too. I surprised myself. So that's where that all came from.
Wow. Well, it is, I mean, again, it's at parts entertaining, other parts, I think, it does get a little tense, but such is life, right? And I think what I love about what Ruby does is that she's able to show that you can be able to get past things and that everything doesn't have to be a thing, right? Everything does not have to be a thing. We don't have to take everything personal. And I love that for sure. How much do you think that also has played a part in your success as a storyteller, Terri, being able to write characters, you mentioned that are relatable, yes, but also show that everything may not be the quote-unquote happy ending that maybe we have come to see in movies and other books?
Yeah, I mean, I just try and write from the heart and be as authentic as I can, and sometimes I just see where the writing takes me, but I try and keep it as layered as I can. I think that's something that I've been able to do a little bit more and more throughout the series. So yeah. I mean, I try and do a balance of humor as well as seriousness, I guess you would call it. And hopefully it all just kind of comes out.
Yeah, it definitely does, and I think regardless of our age, I think the books are so entertaining. And again, the style that you're able to present the stories in, I think really draws the reader in for sure. You mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, Terri, last thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned getting emails. How has social media kind of helped you to stay connected with your fans? It
helps for sure. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I still can't get myself to join Twitter. I tried a few times. But I do get some personal messages and comments, and they're all really wonderful. And then of course reader emails as well. And sometimes I get handwritten letters, which is also great and kind of nice. I always keep them.
Love it.
It's lovely.
Well, this book is definitely one that I know readers will enjoy for those who are young at heart. Again, everyone, New York Times best-selling author Terri Libenson has been our guest. The new book is called Remarkably Ruby. You can get it through our friends at Amazon.com or through your favorite local bookstore. I know that Terri is a fan of indie bookstores, so make sure you guys, if they don't have it, make sure you guys do request it there. And Terri, how can our audience stay connected with you?
Hi, sure. So probably best way is like I was just saying, social media or email, or you can go to my website, terrilibenson.com. It's TerriLibenson, and you can contact me through there. There's also a lot of fun links and links to books and signed books, and there's even like graphic novel guides. There's a lot of fun things for kids as well as adults. So yeah, check it out.
All right, so make sure you guys head over there. Terri, congratulations again to you. Thank you so much for taking out some time, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
The pleasure is definitely all ours, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.